The mist settled over the village of Ainsworth like a thick blanket, muffling the sounds of life and cloaking reality in an otherworldly veil. Little more than a scattered collection of cottages, the village appeared oddly untouched by time, its cobbled streets and gaslit lamps seemingly relics from a forgotten era. But Ainsworth's quaint exterior hid a chilling mystery that lingered like a specter in the depths of its history. Jonas Moore stepped off the creaking bus onto the old stone path, inhaling deeply as he adjusted the strap of his satchel. The sharp air was rich with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. As a local investigative journalist, he was no stranger to strange tales and local legends. But Ainsworth carried with it a peculiar weight, a whisper that drifted through conversations, one of an ancient evil that occasionally awoke from its slumber. The fog thinned briefly, revealing an uneven trail winding through rows of ancient yews that led towards the village square. Jonas noticed the occasional flickering light in the windows of houses, and the distant echoes of children's laughter sent shivers down his spine. As he approached, the laughter stopped abruptly, swallowed by the ever-thickening mist. The center of the village was marked by an ancient well, its surface layer reflecting the overcast sky like an inorganic eye. Jonas stopped before it, peering inside, but seeing nothing but his own reflection dancing across the dark water. The low rumble of the well's depth seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Curious old thing, isn't it? The voice startled Jonas. He turned to see an old woman standing near the well, bundled in layers of thick wool, her eyes as sharp as her smile was absent. "Sorry, didn't mean to startle you," she said, her voice a creaking but steady current. It tends to draw people in. Always has. Always will. "Is this the famous Ainsworth well?" Jonas inquired, trying to keep the conversation casual despite the prickling sensation at the base of his neck. "Famous is not the word you're looking for, young man. Infamous, perhaps." She paused, her eyes clouded with memories of something unseen. Just a well to some, a gateway to others. Before he could press for more, she shuffled off into the fog, disappearing as swiftly as she had appeared. Jonas glanced back at the well, a dark unease snaking up his spine. He had come to Ainsworth to investigate the so-called vanishing nights, a phenomenon where time seemed to slip away without notice in the village, whole evenings evaporating into the ether without a trace. The locals spoke of it in hushed tones, barely daring to acknowledge its existence, lest they invite the darkness into their own lives. Determined to uncover the truth, Jonas checked himself into the village's only inn. It was a small establishment, long past its glory days, with faded floral wallpaper and a collection of mismatched furniture. The innkeeper, Mr. Caldwell, was a robust man whose laughter came easily, though it was a sound reminiscent of breaking glass. "Newcomers, huh? We don't get many of those," Mr. Caldwell noted with an air of intrigue as he handed Jonas a brass key attached to a sliver of worn oak. "Not many find comfort here once the fog rolls in." "Comfort is relative, Mr. Caldwell," Jonas replied, feigning nonchalance. Caldwell chuckled, a low, rolling sound. "Maybe so. Just remember, the nights are different here. Stick to the light and mind the bell." "The bell?" "Ah, you'll hear it if you need to. It tolls for those who wander too close to the well after dark." Jonas could only nod, unsure how seriously to take the warning. His room, merely a few steps down a narrow corridor, was modest but clean, the window offering a view of the village below, a haze of fog wrapping everything in sight. As night fell, Jonas took a seat by the small writing desk, sorting through his notes on the vanishing nights. More than a few accounts described low, sing hours during these strange phenomena, awakening the next day with no memory of how they had spent their time. Determined to witness the strangeness for himself, he set an alarm on his watch to sound every hour. He knew sleep would be difficult, his curiosity battling the need to rest. Hours blurred, and soon, as if lured by some unseen force, he found himself staring out the window. Then a tolling sound cut through the silence, a deep, resonant chime that seemed to originate from everywhere at once. Jonas felt a compulsion pulling him towards it, drawing him to the heart of the village. The village square was different at night. The fog was thicker, the air colder, filled with the electric charge of something watching from the shadows. The tolling slowly subsided, but Jonas continued forward, drawn toward the well. It was then that he saw them, Figures emerging from the fog, ghostly silhouettes moving in an ethereal dance around the well. Their movements were unnaturally fluid, as though they floated rather than walked. Jonas's breath caught in his throat. He stared, unable to look away as the figures turned towards him, their faces obscured yet familiar. Recognition sparked somewhere deep within him, a connection that felt as ancient as the village itself. The well loomed before him like a portal, and the darkness within beckoned. The deep rumble he had heard earlier intensified, drowning out everything but his own jagged breathing. An echo across time itself whispered his name, inviting him into the black abyss. But as suddenly as it had started, the tolling stopped, and the figures dissolved into mist. The world seemed to snap back into place, sounds returning, a cold wind biting at Jonas's skin. He staggered backwards, gasping for air as he stumbled away from the well. Morning light crept into the village, dissolving the fog and casting everything in a gentle glow. Jonas found himself in his room, sprawled across the bed with no recollection of returning from the square. His watch lay on the floor, its alarm still ringing in a pathetic chirp. Hours had slipped away, just as the accounts had described. Determined to understand what was happening, he set out vigorously questioning the villagers. Most were reticent, shrugging off his inquiries or offering cryptic advice to seek the truth in dreams. A statement that made little sense, yet struck a sinister chord deep within him. One man, Nigel, an elderly villager with eyes like tarnished silver, eventually agreed to talk. They met in the dusty confines of Nigel's cramped study, a room cluttered with stacks of books and an assortment of peculiar artifacts. "It's all tied to the well," Nigel whispered as if divulging a secret to the air itself. "They say the well predates the village. The stones here, they resonate with the land's memory." Jonas leaned forward, listening intently. "The villagers who vanish at night, they're drawn to it. Why? It's a curse, some say. Others call it a gift." Nigel's eyes hardened, fixed on some unseen point in the room. "The well reflects your deepest desires and fears, your very essence. To look deep within it is to risk losing yourself." Jonas felt a chill spreading through him, not unlike the mist that enveloped the village each night. "Have you looked into it?" Nigel's gaze shifted towards the window, the shadows shifting across his weathered face. "Once, I saw the faces of those long gone, my own brother among them, and for hours, perhaps years, I wandered in that place between." There was gravity to his words, an undeniable truth wrapped in layers of mystery. Jonas mulled over the implication that the well connected worlds beyond understanding, worlds molded by the subconscious. "The ritual you saw," Nigel continued carefully, "those trapped are seeking release, but the well demands a sacrifice of sorts, a trade." "A trade of what?" Jonas asked, though the tension in his voice evidenced his dread of the answer. "Every need got claimed steals a part of you, a memory, a feeling, a soul." It was no longer just about an investigative piece, it was survival. Ainsworth clung stubbornly to its secrets, a guardian to the forces at play. The tolling, the fog, the figures by the well, each an invitation to the village's heart of darkness. Determined to end the cycle, Jonas resolved to return that night, confronting whatever held the village hostage. The hours dragged, yet time seemed all too eager to advance as dusk settled over Ainsworth once more. Leading the charge of flickering shadows and twisted foliage, the echoes of tolling resumed, booming across the village like a call to arms. Armed with Nigel's warning and his own resolve, Jonas made his way toward the well. He navigated through the rows of yews, each step whispering past secrets of the land with a gentle sigh, and there they were again, the elusive figures, their forms silhouetted against the embrace of the fog. They were joined by others this time, newcomers, perhaps. Faces he could recognize and faces he could not, all exuding an aura of the eerie, all converging towards the rhythm of the toll. The commingling figures, bound by a shared purpose, moved in unfathomable synchrony towards the well. As Jonas approached, he sensed something tangible, a silent understanding or pact among them. He edged closer to the well, heart hammering a tattoo of dread against his ribs. The reflection he had seen before lay quivering, stretching like a canvas on which symbols were exploding into existence, each illuminating briefly before melting away into the darkness. Jonas leaned in, drawn once more into its depths. The well came alive as though under his gaze, the ripples that rocked its surface climbing higher, larger, as if reaching for him. The tolling bells, an ever-growing crescendo, resonated until they were tangible pulses coursing beneath his skin. An aching tranquility settled around him. As the shadows, the chorus of lost souls, formed a ring. They wept, a cascade of silent, pleading tears missed by living eyes. Each face bore its own tragedy. Each stood upon the brink of an eternal journey, longing for release the well could grant through sacrifice and through trade. Jonas understood everything, all at once, and a wave of peace draped over his senses, shared sorrow toward a painful understanding. It would take his memories, the most cherished parts of his being, in exchange for their release. And he was willing to let go for them, willing to pay the ultimate price for their freedom. It was no loud explosion, no monumental farewell, no earth-shaking epiphany when he let himself go, stepping over the edge and into the well as the water swirled and clouds engulfed him. And then, silence. Jonas awoke not in darkness but in familiar light. He found himself back in his room at the inn, sheets tangled around him. He sat up, a mushy confusion enveloping him. The fog outside had lifted, sunlight crept through the trees, dancing over the village and highlighting every weathered stone. Jonas stood in front of the mirror, staring into a visage he knew yet didn't recognize. He saw memories behind his eyes, the people, faces, stories, that resonated with a fleeting familiarity, yet names escaped him. The sensation was not emptiness, but a fullness beyond accounting. Outside, the village stirred in soft murmurs, early morning joviality free of the residual mist's darker guile. It was just another village day, except that the tolling had ceased. Ainsworth's dark curse was gone, sacrificed in part by his own hands, but something had indeed changed. The faces wandering its streets had come into focus like forgotten names in a cherished book rediscovered. Watching the villagers, something within Jonas quietly celebrated. The well stood defiant in the sunlit square, a relic of darkness Ainsworth would never entirely forget. Its echoes a lasting testament to sacrifices laid hidden by the thoughtful sigh, lengths of time. Whether cursed or freed, Ainsworth was his home, even as memories danced just out of reach, more than myth or lore, held in the tranquil peace of a nameless